Okay, so we're back in the craft room, ready to get cracking with the honeymoon dress. Hopefully we'll get it sewn up this week. But yeah, let's see how we go. Okay, so the first step to take with completing this dress was a little bit of measuring of the toile and reflecting those measurements onto the pattern, so that taking a note of them and doing a little bit of maths, working out what I needed to change, what I needed to adjust, where I needed to place things, and a bit to and froing in my tiny little craft room of chaos. So once we've got those measurements down, we need to mark them onto paper pattern pieces. So I'm using paper pattern pieces for the skirt because they were pretty close to what I needed, only a few modifications to go in there. Namely, the one for the slit that goes up the leg. So we're going for a above the knee slit, hopefully, if I've measured it correctly. So we need to mark where we're going to split it at the top. I've tried to put it in line with the seam on the bodice. Then we also need to measure how far around the hem it's going to go. I mean, this is very much an approximate measurement because I just put the dress on and cut it, so it wasn't the most thoughtful and planned out of the slits that I put into the trial, but it'll give us an idea of where we want it to go. So we're going to go and transfer that onto the skirt pattern piece, and from there we can sort of look and see if it's realistically where we're going to want it to be, and then we can join up the two marks. So yeah, high-tech process this. I know it's going to be roughly in the right place, and sometimes that's as good as it gets and as good as you need it to be. So we'll just transfer from the two marks of the waistband and the hemline into a line across the waist. I did have a metre rule somewhere, I wasn't quite sure where it was at this point, so I'm just using my tape measure as a straight edge to mark that line in, and I'm not worrying too much about doing a solid line. I'm just going to do a dashed line all the way up. That's enough for me to be able to see to cut open the paper. And obviously I'll be marking up things like grey line and what each bit is, and reminding myself I need to add seam allowance to where the slit is. So where I'm separating the pattern piece into two, I also need to put seam allowance back in when I cut it out, so that I've still got the fit. There we go. Bit of a paper cutting ASMR for you. Crinkly, crinkly, crinkly. Come to help. Very useful. So although I'm using the paper pattern piece for the skirt, I'm using the fabric from the trial bodice as pattern pieces for the final bodice. So I have to take the toile apart in order to use them. So seam ripper to the rescue, with a bit of trimming up and altering of those pieces just to get them into the right shapes and sizes as needed based on my last fit check. Obviously this takes a bit of time to do, and I have sped it up considerably.
so bodice pieces are now pattern pieces. Made most of the adjustments to them. I've got a bit of seam allowance to add here and there when I cut them out, and I haven't lifted the seam line on the lower cut piece. I'm going to, I've raised it on the cradle but not on the low bust piece, because I'm going to sew up the lining and then try it on inside out and do some final tweaks there. So that gives me a bit of wiggle room doing it that way, whereas if I take the fabric out now and I take too much out, I can't put it back in. But the other adjustments are made. So next step is getting the bodice cut out in the lining fabric, sewing up the lining, putting the zip into the lining, trying that on, doing the tweaks, taking the zip back out again, and then doing the outside shell of the dress. So yeah, cutting out, here we go.
So before starting to sew on this particular project, I loaded up 2 bobbins with the matching thread for the main colour. I mean, all the fabrics are bottle green, so same thread all the way through. 2 bobbins which took up an entire reel.
Okay, so we've got all the bodice lining pieces cut out. Let's see if I got the fit right. Right, Liam. Am I going to be allowed to put the iron back on to press these seams? Is that going to be allowed? Because I can't put the iron on when you're sitting right next to it. You see, Annie pulls your grooming post now, is it? Okay. Standing on the bit that I want to press is not helpful either. Come on. Mister, need you out the way. Back in a bit. Okay, so the lining is done. It's a little difficult to tell exactly how it's fitting because it's not got any straps on, but I think it's not going to be too bad. I haven't taken anything out of the lower cups, so the underbust line is sitting lower than I had in my head as where I wanted it to be, but without the skirt attached to it and without the straps, I don't know how far adrift it is. It might be fine. It certainly feels fine. The lining fabric is a little bit thinner than 12 fabric, so it's a little bit looser than it was. But I'm going to flatline the outer layer with 3 bits of fabric. That might swing it the other way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything cut out, make up the outside of the dress, attach the lining to the outside of the dress. And because this is a seam here, I can always come back in, unpick it and redo it on both the inside and the outside if I need to, once the rest of it is together. But I think it's close enough at this point in time for me to proceed. That could be that could be a bit of a mistake, but we'll see. So yeah, so I'm gonna get out of this, put some actual clothes back on, and get the rest cut out. So yeah, I think we're close, and I think it was as close as we're probably gonna get. You see, we've got wrinkles where we haven't got straps holding things up and skirts pulling things down. So yeah, so this underbust line is a little bit lower. I'd kind of wanted it to sit right under the bust like a bra would, but I think I'd rather have it too low than too high. I think it's going to look nicer sitting under the bust than halfway up the boob. And I say, once the sleeves are on, it may well sit slightly differently. So yeah, so that's the soft touch crepe bodice lining ready to go. Okay, so I've got my project box with everything cut out in it. So next step is to stay stitch the top of all the skirt pieces and flatline the bodice. So I'm going to change thread for that, so I don't need to worry about matching threads for things that I'm going to show. So yes, we'll get that done. Then we'll sew together the bodice, the outer fabric of the bodice, get the lining attached, and the sleeves attached and all that kind of thing. And I'm going to put the skirt on before I rescue the zip. Well, I'll rescue the zip before I put the lining in, but before I put the rescued zip into it, so that when I try it on to assess that underbust seam, I can see exactly where everything is going to be hanging with the weight of the fabric, and make a decision at that point as to whether I'm happy with where that seam is sitting or whether I want to lift it a little bit. And after that I'll do all my hand finishing. So we have a goal. I want to get the mannequin to be wearing the dress at the point where it's ready for hemming and hand finishing. So that's today's goal. We'll see how far we get. Okay, so flatlining is the process where you take multiple layers of fabric and you stitch them together as one, so that you can treat them as if they're one bit of fabric when you're sewing the garment up. So in this case, as my middle layer is organza, which is quite frankly a bit like sewing with water, it makes things a bit easier to work with. It also means you're only dealing with one lot of seams to finish and that kind of thing. I suspect it helps with structure, but I don't really know. It's not something I commonly do, but for the purposes of this dress, it seemed like the sensible choice, particularly for the bodice. I'm not flatlining the skirt, so that'll be fun when it comes to seaming up the organza layer. But yeah, the bodice, I am flatlining the outer for. I probably should be hand tacking these pieces together before I sew them, but I'm going for the plenty of pins approach. Yes, Leo, I am. So hopefully that means that my fabrics won't shift too much when I'm stitching them. So I'm stitching them with a zigzag stitch in the seam allowance. I could use the overlocker for it. I've chosen not to. And I'm not worrying about matching my threads for this step because it's in the seam allowance. So the stay stitching I don't worry about matching my threads either. I think when it comes to the skirts, I may do the lining layer with a different green thread just to preserve the yardage of my thread for the bits that are going to show. But I haven't totally decided. That's a little bit later on. And obviously doing this process does add a bit of time to your make, because you're adding in an extra step or two. And when you've got as many pieces in the bodice as I have, it's going to take a bit of a while. So hopefully I'll still be able to get the dress put together today, but if I need to come back to it later in the week, that's not a problem. Evenings are getting lighter now, clocks have changed, so yeah, it means I can sew later into the day if I need to. But obviously I do still need to take breaks from sewing because breaks are important. So this is what my fabrics look like when they're flat lined. You see there's a bit of a shimmer there from the metallic organza that I've got between soft touch crepe and the chantilly lace. So it's not sort of in your face at all, but it should sort of catch the light as I move. So yes, I'm going to keep doing that on all of my bodice pieces before I start putting the whole gown together. What are you supposed to be telling me, Leo?
That you're going to make me a lovely cup of coffee when you go downstairs.
Am I allowed to make myself a nice cup of tea first, Leo?
I wasn't expecting him to walk into the bedroom to you.
Okay, so that's the outer bodice together. It's looking good, looking okay. I mean, there's a couple of seams I could have matched up a bit better, but what I will say about this fabric is being polyester, it doesn't take creases, which from a I'm not going to need to iron this very often point of view is great. From a pressing seams to get them looking nice and flat and neat, not so great. I know, Leo, it's not, is it? So yes, I'm going to get this popped up on the mannequin and go take a break. I'll see you in a bit for putting sleeves on and lining in.
Okay, so I've got the strap in place and I've attached the lining for the strap on the neck side. Thinking about it, I should have probably attached it with the sleeve on the other side and then to the neckline. It would be easier that way, but let's get the sleeve on and we'll see how we go.
Not very useful.
So yeah, sleeve is on. Nice and floaty, flutter sleeve. And I did manage to enclose the seam with the lining on the strap, but yeah, I think it would have been easier the other way around, a lot less fiddly.
Am I allowed to pin things together? Or are you just going to sit on them? No wonder this project's taking forever.
So we're French seaming on the skirt, so I have to trim up the seam allowance ready to turn it over as we sped up again. And then we notice that I have a lovely French seam. Perfect, lovely, nicely how I want it to be. And then we have the first step of the French seam on the inside instead of the outside. So here comes the seam ripper. And I wish I could seam rip this quickly. It's a frequent task in sewing. Don't we just love it?
Okay, so I had hoped to get this dress finished this week. As you can see, I've got my bodice all together. I've got the fronts of all 3 layers of the skirts put together. And I'm just putting the back on. I'm putting the second back on the lining layer, because I managed to sew that the wrong way round. But realistically, for me to get this video edited and up to you today, well, I need to edit it today to get it out for you tomorrow. It's not going to be done, not going to be finished today. But I'd rather it took longer and I make fewer mistakes than I rush it just to go video out. So yeah, so I'm gonna get this seam fixed and then pretty much call it a day for this week. And hopefully next week's video will be the final reveal of the dress. I've still got the backs to put on, the organza and the lace, and then attach the skirt to the dress, put the zip in, but do the final fit check, and then leave it to hang for a couple of days. But yeah, just life's got in the way a little bit this week, so I haven't had as much sewing time as I would have liked, despite being off work for a week. You'd think I'd have managed to fit it all in, but no. So yeah, so hopefully next week I'll have that for you. If not, it might be the week after. So thank you for spending time with me this week. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And in the meantime, there's this video here that may be of interest to you. But until next time, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.